right, what is up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. Special edition today. Special edition. We are no putts given on location. We are, where are we, Tony?
We are at TPI, the newly renovated, redesigned, not quite done, but getting there, Titleist Performance Institute.
I like how you're looking behind as though they can't see that.
Yeah, that's what, well, I gotta see what I'm talking about. I don't know what's going on.
What do we got, 30 acres here? Is that?
Yeah, 29 acres of...
We can round for Chris, we learned that.
Yeah, we round up. I round up on ball speed on anything else, so anything over 25 acres is 30.
Yeah, so 30 acres, some new buildings, new turf. You guys were able to experience a little bit this morning.
Yeah.
Chris, who are we with? Cover that.
Well, yeah, we got to introduce a couple special guests. Actually, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Back
Who
again.
are you and what do you do?
This is
Back again.
Third time, right? Sure. This might be number 3.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, happy to be here with y'all. Stephanie Luttrell, Director of Metalwood Development for Titleist Golf Club R&D.
And I'm JJ Van Wiesenbeck, Director of Player Promotions on the PGA Tour.
We were joking earlier, JJ, you were always last in line in elementary school when they did everything alphabetically. So
I had to rush to get lunch before you guys.
JJ never got to lunch in time. Well, we're gonna chat GT. We got some handy props and everything here. So GT, new Metalwoods. We're gonna go through a bunch of the kind of interesting things. I even jotted down some questions from your presentation. But let's start with this. What is it?
What does GT stand
What does
for?
GT stand for? What the top 5 things that consumers might want to, right out of the gate. What's new? What's different?
Well, GT, it stands for Generational Technology. It's just our effort to build upon the Titleist Speed project that was TS, TSI, and TSR, but take things to an absolutely new level. So it's this compilation of incredible club head speed, aerodynamics, ball speed through center gravity position and face designs, and then doing it in a new construction that is allowing us to unlock that performance of speed and stability that ultimately leads to incredible distance performance.
All right, so we're going to dive into...
That was a lot.
That was a lot. That was very, very well said. We're going to get into what all those things kind of mean, and JJ is going to help us out a lot on kind of what's been happening on tour and from a fitting perspective and stuff. But let's just kind of go through the line, quick high-level overview. Drivers, fairway woods. Other stuff maybe coming later, that kind of stuff. But for right now, we're talking drivers, fairway woods.
Absolutely.
So what do we have? We got in the drivers, we've
got GT2, GT3, and GT4. It's a pretty good playbook.
Yeah. So you guys kind of stuck with that. Just quickly, who are each of those kind of 4? I mean, obviously people get fit, go get fit, go get fit. We say it all the time, but people also want to know, well, which one is kind of maybe right for me?
Absolutely. I like to think of GT2 as that all-around maximum playability. So it's the best combination of speed and stability in the lineup. So for that player that doesn't have a consistent miss or can miss it all over the face, the GT2 is that high launch, low spin bomber product with great inertial stability. And then GT3 is our option that allows you to unlock performance through center of gravity fitting, kind of a little bit lower launch than where we are with GT2. So if you're looking for kind of the highest launch window, you should pivot more towards GT2, but GT3 is globally builds upon TSR3 in its pedigree. So similar profile to where we were with TSR3, but has some new shaping advantages that are helping us to deliver more speed, higher launch, and lower spin than where we were with TSR3. And then GT4, it lives in the lineup to be kind of that ultra low spin killer. And so heavy weight forward, but it does have 4-AF CG adjustability. So if you go and you flip that weight to the back, it allows you to create what I like to call a GT 2.5, kind of lives between the 2 and the 3 from a center of gravity standpoint. It's also our smallest volume product, so it's a very traditional pair profile, similar to GT3, just shrunk down, so 430 cc's. So for that player that loves that product that just looks traditionally in dress position, the GT4 is a great option for them.
There we go. And then 2s and 3s, again, in the fairway wood, same type of idea, right? The GT2, a little bit larger footprint, a little bit higher trajectory. The 3, again, a little maybe more CG adjustability, but then a little flatter, a little less.
Exactly. You nailed it. It's like you've heard the presentation.
I did.
You
Like I said, I took notes. I wrote down all this stuff and everything too. So
I think what really builds on those fairway woods and the performance is that both of them are higher trajectory than where we were with TSR, and that was direct feedback that we heard from the marketplace as well as from Tour that all players want to see fairway woods get up in the air and go. And so both GT2 and GT3, they absolutely deliver high launch trajectory, high trajectory that allows players to really maximize their carry and their performance with them.
what do you think, Tony? So far, so good?
Yeah, so I would say. Let's talk about kind of what to me is the big change and probably the big change for you guys. So what is that big thing that is different for Titleist this time around?
Yeah, I would say, and you're alluding to it, but it's the fact that we've gone multi-material in our construction across the entire line. It's the first time that we've done that, and that's one of the keys that has helped us to unlock the performance of GT. The multi-material construction utilizes what we call a proprietary matrix polymer, or PMP for short, and that PMP is allowing us to distribute mass differently in the head. It's allowing us to shape the head differently for aerodynamics, and it's unlocking great speed and great launch and spin performance that is leading to incredible distance and consistency.
So what is PMP? Let's take the mystery out. What exactly are we working with?
Is this material? Yeah.
Essentially, PMP, it is carbon fiber, but it's the resin that holds that together that is allowing us to create a much preferred sound and feel characteristic that really builds upon what we characteristically in Titleist driver design, we like to say look, sound, and feel is incredibly important to all players. And so PMP is allowing us to be lighter than where we would be in an all titanium construction and distribute the mass differently, but it's allowing us to do it in a way that it sounds and feels like a Titleist driver should. So more on that metallic spectrum.
Yeah, that was the thing for me. Hitting the two in particular, I would have had no idea that it was composite / PMP. And with the three, maybe just a hint of a little bit different sound, but still, I would say more like titanium than most composites, all composites, I guess, to date.
And that's one of those attributes that within our driver design process, we are always looking at not only how do we make the longest driver, the fastest driver possible, but we're also looking at how do we check those more under the radar attributes of how do we make it look, sound, and feel like a Titleist. And PMP is allowing us to unlock multi-material construction in a way that is authentic to Titleist.
So can I see that real quick?
Absolutely.
So one thing I found super interesting, and JJ, I think you're partially responsible for this, is, when you put the crown on, and obviously once it's there and fixed, but at address, you don't see it.
Yeah, that was kind of, again, keeping it true to the Titleist. When Stephanie's got prototypes out here and we have tour players hitting it, should have, this started 6 years ago. This isn't a 1 year life cycle. This is 6 years in process.
Right.
And she's got multiple materials and we're dialing in sound. And we had looked at a lot of prototypes and shown players with different seam geometry to try to find the best of the worst. And it kind of came down to, wouldn't this be nice to not have? And Stephanie did that bad answer in a meeting where she said it's super hard. And I'm like, I didn't hear a no.
That's not a firm no. We can.
This is hard to do.
We aim to please.
And so that became a new challenge. Is she has a really fast driver. She's got it sounding great. Now she's got to go back to her team and go, how do we make it look like a Titleist?
How much of that was direct from tour? Like when you're talking to tour players out there, being kind of that deal breaker of like, yes, this is absolutely game on if you can make it look this way. Was that just pretty resounding from tour staff?
It was, and I think that was the thing. We talked a little bit about Charlie Hoffman's commentary of you can always find a reason to not like a new driver somehow. There's graphics on the crown. They're distracting my eye. There are different colors on the crown. There's different shapes that I'm fighting to aim. If I can set it down, feel like it's framed correctly, aimed correctly, I'm off to a really good start. Now I don't have to get used to it. And when we're seeing adoption rates, that's part of it, is I can set it down, aim it, and now I can just focus on the performance parameters rather than feel like I have to fight the aesthetics.
Yeah.
As you said, again, like aesthetics, one other thing you did on the face, right, that is purely cosmetic, but maybe has benefits, certainly gives players truly a better frame of reference, right? We want to be a little bit with the puns there. Yes, exactly. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think with the face graphics, what we found is, with the modern swing where, we're fighting early extension, we're trying to get that covered feeling, players really want to see some loft.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want so much loft that it's hard to aim or we create too much spin. So we were kind of using some Sharpie lines on tour players' heads to help alignment where they can center it and then help them see the face correctly. And so we kind of showed Stephanie some of our arts and craft projects. And she's like, I think I can make that a little more permanent.
We have a great industrial design team. So that's actually our feedback loop, and that we meet regularly with JJ, with Liam on the DP World Tour. And we're constantly collecting those little nuggets on how do we check boxes and make the driver perform in every aspect better, even when it comes to cosmetic attributes.
So does JJ ever bring you anything and you're like, yeah, we're not doing that?
Trying to think, not off the top of my head.
It's pretty rare.
He's a good filter for the crazy, you could say.
So do you just like, no, we're not even going to take that to Steph?
Yeah, there's a few I don't bring to her, but when we're looking through prototypes, it's a really good challenge of when you're the number one driver on tour, it's a hard pedestal to keep, because there are certain things like aesthetics that you become known for and feel and sound. So how can she push the envelope in ball speed and total performance, but really maintaining certain attributes that our players are demanding?
Yeah, and one thing we were talking about earlier too, I thought was kind of interesting, is going back a generation to TSR. Like I said, there's modifications that you just kind of get into routinely to fix certain things, whether it's a sound issue or, like you said, a visual issue, an aesthetic issue that players want, and you're building that into the process now so that there's fewer of those modifications you need to make after the fact. Does that completely dispel kind of this idea like, oh, the tour, they get special products, right? They get this, they get that. But it seems like it's even closer maybe now than it has been maybe ever.
Yeah, I think GT3 is a perfect example of that. When we look at drivers years ago, hey, we might have been, let's take the Sharpie lines on the face. We might have done that dab of rat glue in the crown to just quiet it a little bit, but not too much. We might have been putting some lead tape in different places to try to get the CG. Well, now we have the track, we have the face graphics, we have the sound exactly where tour players are wanting it. We're clicking this on just like we would in your fitting.
Yeah, so it's kind of not plug and play, but kind of. Where fewer modifications.
No super secret magic heads.
I will say they do have a JJ though, but all of us can go see a reputable Titleist fitter and really unlock performance.
Tony's got one of those too.
Yeah, Tony.
Exactly.
They're hard to come by.
For better or worse in some cases.
Fitter / swing whisperer, right?
Yeah, that is.
We did mostly the fit today, but we got a little swing stuff at the end.
Well, that was interesting too, because during the fitting, right, you just kind of went with what I had, and we did a fitting and changed a few things, and I would say thought about things differently. And again, part of that was when we talk about fitting, how important it is to really have a conversation about what it is you're looking for, what needs to change, and not just, all right, I need more ball speed and I need more distance, period. In my case, talking about like I need to bring it in, because I can even if for some reason you guys made a bad driver that actually cost me a little bit of difference, if we could bring it in, the ultimate result would be better. And so like the challenge is how do we bring it in and maintain, if not improve, speed and distance, which we were able to do. And part of that was, okay, we've got a great new product here, but JJ also thinking about differently and understanding like, hey, what if we made a simple change with the shaft? So in my case, right, we lowered the balance point, but what did you see? Fundamentally in my fitting, this said, and this is tough because not everybody's going to know the balance point of a shaft to begin with, but what did you see to say, hey, like if we could just drop the balance point, let me go get a different shaft that's going to do just that, and we'll get a better result?
Well, I think we saw with your baseline is when we look at that total driving performance, is you were looking at narrowing it this way, but I also wanted to narrow the shortest shot. And we look at, hey, if I looked at your strokes gained for the year, when you hit that short right one, that's
never.
So at the very least, if I can bring the floor up, and then in your case, we were able to kind of limit part of is we had a little bit of a right miss, which when we showed you some of the early numbers, some of your path numbers were really good. We need to give you face control. And so that was kind of the thing that stood out for me. Swings, you're like, that was terrible. And we're watching some of the attack angles are like, well, that was real similar. That path was fairly similar.
It wasn't that bad.
I need
Yeah,
to
it was.
control this
Yeah.
face and the strike location a little bit better. So between SureFit Ozzel, SureFit CG, and then using a little shaft to kind of narrow that in, all of a sudden we could get similar shape each time where you could start everything right center and either hit it straight or overturn it a little bit. But now the right side of the golf course isn't bottom. And then with the GT is when you missed it, your ball speed stayed up. So we moved the floor of distance up. So we've narrowed directionally, but we've also narrowed the shortest shot.
It worked.
It did work.
And then afterwards we, went in and kind of worked on my ankles a little bit of all things. And
I think there's some snaky speed there now.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to kind of see, all right, is that going to get me closer? Because that, for me, kind of a frustrating thing is coming here and being 5 miles an hour slower than I was. And that's, nothing in the design of the driver. That's just, some issues I've had. And so what can I do to get that back? Some of it through design, some of it through my ankles maybe. So
the thing you saw in that last swing, funny enough, even after we stepped away and got rid of the orange box, same fit, flight was spot on.
So good.
Yeah,
So
what do you see? Because, I mean, obviously you fit best players in the world, right? You're working week in and week out with players that we get to watch on TV and that kind of stuff. What have they seen with GT versus TSR? Like, what are the key takeaways early on that, now that it's been, 3-4 weeks that you've been fitting them on tour into this product, what are your takeaways there?
Stephanie was out Memorial with us, and I think we kind of joked the first week is the number of twos we saw was kind of really standing out. Is they'd hit the toe shot and it'd get low 2000s, then they'd hit the heel shot and it was mid to upper 2000s, and the good shot was 23, 2400. Is the spin consistency, which for a tour player is dramatic, is if I know that shot's not going to get ballooned into the wind, it's not going to dive out of the sky, and I can, again, move that floor up, that my mishit is not as short. That was really powerful in controlling direction.
Yeah, I think with Billy Horschel, we saw he hit about 5 or 6 shots in a row, and they were all within 50 RPMs of each other. Now, that's not just his skill as a tour player. He goes, oh, I heeled that one. Oh, I towed that one. And the fact that we saw a variety of launch ranges, but we also saw the spin control. And as JJ mentioned, being able to control spin that consistently, it's a compilation of the technology that's under the hood of these drivers. It's where center gravity is positioned. It's also the stability that's designed into them. And those two in combination are really helping to unlock incredible spin consistency. As well as you pair that with the face designs, you're getting incredible speed consistency. So all of that leads to downrange distances that your longest drive is longer, but also your shortest and your miss hit, as Tony experienced today, gets brought closer to that. And so you're seeing just a more consistent product that you can trust in.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. In my fitting, I worked with Chris Bango, and he was saying, he's like, hey, if my job was to make your best shots better, I'd be out of a job real quick. Because best shots, there's going to be marginal improvement there, right? Like if it's just, hey, best for best, okay. But when we look across the range at averages, or like you said, that kind of the delta, or our standard deviations with spin, we were able to bring mine in much tighter. Which you're not going to see that on one particular shot necessarily, right? You're going to see that over a variety of shots, but it's like, you kind of think about it, right? Like, when you go hit driver on the course, and let's say you hit it 10 to 12 times in a row. Well, it's kind of like you're just picking that driver. It's like picking a jelly bean out of a bag and oh, well, this was a good one. Well, how many chances do I have to pick out a good one? If I have 15 chances in this bag, I got a better chance that I'm going to pick out one that's going to work. Like you said, raising that floor. What do you think is the most impressive part of this particular driver, particularly for people that, because we get this question all the time, I was just fit for a driver last year. And we generally tell them, you're dialed in,
you're good.
Don't. Like, if you're dialed into a driver and you got fit last year, the year before even, don't. Just stick with it. It's there. Is that still good advice?
Well, I think this is generational for us in terms of the technology that we packed into GT. where we've been able to position center gravities and the combination of aerodynamics, face design, hand CG, and stability, we see incredible speed gains over TSR. In our competitive testing, we're seeing great speed and distance. And really what's been probably the most overwhelming feedback, and JJ alluded to it in the first 4 weeks on tour, is the ball speed and the spin consistency. And so helping players see their longest drives more often is something that all players want to see. And I have really enjoyed getting to spend time with JJ and Liam at the DP World Tour, because one of the things that they do when they work with a player going through this initial evaluation is to say, hit all of the shots that you would like to see. Give me the low tee fairway finder. Give me the heel cut that you like to hit. Give me the high bomber. And so being able to see GT perform under those conditions and to see the launch, the spin, the speed consistency has been exceptional.
I want to ask about the driver you didn't make. So we have a 2, a 3, and a 4, and they're all similar to where they've been in the past, but this year has kind of been the year where the buzzword is 10K. Right, and so you don't have anything in here that approaches that 10K number that we've heard about all year. Why not? Why does Titleist not want to tackle a 10K driver?
It's a good question. I think when it comes down to it, the foundation of our strategy is about bringing more distance more often. And in order to achieve those 10K characteristics, you have to position center gravity incredibly deep. We know through our research and our studies that the incredibly deep CGs lead to slower club head speed, lead to slower ball speed. And in doing that, you end up with a shorter performing driver. And also, the inertial does not lead to straighter for players. If you think about it, under the best fit conditions, it's all about face to path and your ability to deliver that. So that deep CG is a timing mechanism. And so within our lineup with 2, 3, and 4, we're delivering CG depth variations that allow players to find the best CG that fits their timing to allow you to bring face to path square more often. And in doing that, we're doing it in a way that unlocks speed performance as well as incredible consistency. There's diminishing returns to max inertia, and that you don't need 10K in order to have an incredibly stable and consistent product. It's a combination of CG and inertia.
I think we talked about this a little bit, but one of the biggest misunderstanding that continues, I just seems like it's never going to die, is this idea that high MOI equals more straightness versus just preserving ball speed, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you deliver a high MOI product with the face wide open, yes, it's going to be less resistant to twist, but the ball's still headed right. And so there's no affecting that in terms of you need the face to path to be square.
What about tour, JJ? I mean, is anybody on tour coming to you and saying, can we get this closer to 10K?
I've never heard that line. We do get straighter as a request, but it turns out everybody loves ball speed. When you come on the tee and they're seeing the fastest ball speed, what you're finding is that fit is so important to straight rather than just a number. If that's what we would be asking Stephanie to make. And when we've tested that type of product is we're seeing we have to give up ball speed, and that's just not going to work because you'd have to pick up a lot of straight for that standpoint. So when we look at, launch conditions on tour is, hey, there's the optimal, hey, I want a high launch, low spin. We will get players that say, hey, I want a little bit more backspin than ideal to kind of feel like they can shape and control it and things like that. So you're using spin as that factor for certain players. But nobody's saying, hey, I want a number on a head. Because even in that sense is we're adding two numbers that actually don't interact with each other. When you're doing IXX and IYY, that those are independent variables. So we're just asking Stephanie is, show me the fastest driver, show me great launch conditions, and then we're going to allow that fit to drive that direction.
Give me a good story from tour fitting. Like, what's something that stands out to you so far in terms of maybe something that other people aren't going to see or kind of hear about from this product line? Like anything that's been super...
Yeah, I think, I know we have our pamphlet on, hey, GT4 low spin. Tony, it was his highest spin because of the way
it went over there.
It went way over there. Yeah.
And so where Stephanie or her team position the CG is so fun as a bidder. So we had a situation with Will Zalatoris coming back from injury where his instructors are saying, we need launch. We need easy launch because I'm going to have to make a bad swing that's going to put pressure on my back. And he was very set in TSR3 shape, look, feel, and bring out GT2 and have a product that's faster than his TSR3, product that launches easier, to see him transition to a GT2 and have that give him more speed, give him more launch, and using that CG depth to help drive the fit and work with an instructor was kind of a really cool thing to have him go, this does all the things my TSR3 did, but just makes my life a lot easier.
Well, I kind of laugh a little bit because I talk about 2 as the model. Hey, if you kind of hit it all over the face and you need this or whatever, like Will Zalatoris, Cam Young, who else is in the 2?
It's not necessarily a prerequisite.
right. Like, so, but I think that's something that's interesting is on from the tour standpoint. It's like whatever fits you best. There isn't a like, oh, geez, I'm playing this head or I'm playing that. I mean, again, I would take Cam Young's ball speed. I'd be just
Zalatoris has got a 350 in the bag, T150s, and a GT2. So, if you can get a little help, but
right.
We talked about it from TS to TSI to TSR and now GT. We're seeing the 2 move it into a bigger usage on tour. Is Steph's team have done such a great job in feel and look that, again, now there's no reason to not play a 2. Now we're just down to performance.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, one of the interesting stories was with Wyndham Clark. Wyndham was a part of our early prototype testing and had exposure to GT3 and GT2, and he saw the performance that was in the product. And he, I think, was in JJ's ear for about, 4 months, just saying, when can I play it? When can I play it?
This the week I can play it? Is this the week I can?
You stop taking the call. No.
I'm at Memorial, obviously, and I walk up and we're about to start his fitting, and I'm like, well, where's your driver? And he showed up with no TSR in the bag. That's how confident he was in wanting to put GT into the bag. And it was obviously 1 week before he was going to be defending the U.S. Open as well. So I felt the pressure.
I just say little added print, like he didn't even show up with the driver, so I really hope we get something that kind of works.
But I think one of the interesting things in just how the models can work in complement to one another, we actually ended up with 2 great options for Wyndham coming out of that week and that fit. He had a GT2 that if his body wasn't feeling like it could get the launch trajectory that he wanted, that he had one that he could flight up a little bit more with a little bit more spin, that would give him a little more control for shot shaping capability. Then he also had a GT3 that if he just wanted to be able to flight it and bomb it. So those 2 options, he's actually played with both in competition now, and just having that flexibility is something.
Probably most of your listeners should just buy 2 drivers.
Exactly. So what I'm hearing is you want to buy at least 2 drivers. That's probably good. Yep. At least 2 lob wedges. Yeah, that's probably good. Was Tony, 2 in the trunk, 3 in the trunk now?
Now we're 4 in the trunk. The trunk is filling up.
4 in the trunk.
I'm gonna have to buy a new car just to accommodate all the extras.
Allegedly.
You have a Sprinter van, right?
Yeah,
that's gonna come with that.
I should. For all my children.
So right now, I think it's interesting when we, almost everybody has at least 3 drivers now, and it's very often it's like 1 or 2 get played on tour, and this is the other one that, there might be one guy with special needs who puts it in play on tour, but for the most part, it's just for average guys. Everything you guys make, at least right now, gets a fair amount of tour play, right?
Yeah, it does actually all the way through the lineup. So the 4, it's more limited in terms of its usage. Ben On's probably our poster boy for.
Yeah, it's about 5-6% of usage on tour would be the 4. Ben On's a really high attack angle, so the 4 does a really nice job of helping keep his flight. If you look at distance efficiency on tour, Ben On's number 1. He's the high launch, low spin player, and the 4 just fits that really well for him. So he's in GT4.
And then between the 3 and the 2, I was looking at this last week, and the counts are very similar. I think in the past, there's been slightly more 3 usage, but I think with the way that we've been able to shift the performance of the 2 in GT lineup, that JJ's going to see more success with that. And we're seeing the advent of, juniors graduating up through college ranks onto the PGA Tour, and those players have been built to just bomb it, right? And they're not afraid of
Much like you and I, very
hitting
similar.
it slightly on the face. And that GT2 provides that best combination of speed and stability, and that's why you're seeing a lot of them gravitate to it.
What about, you know, with the fairway wood part as well, in terms of like the adoption rate? Like, I mean, JJ, you have to go.
There are fairway woods, right?
There are fairway woods. I know. One of my passion areas, short end of the stick.
For the 7 people who care about
for the
fairway
7
woods.
people who read my fairway wood articles, thank all of you.
By name, we could probably.
By name, I call them. But you probably have in your head like, hey, here's how many people I think might switch. You know, first week, second week, third week, that kind of stuff. Better or worse than you anticipated in terms of adoption?
It was a lot better. We launched in a difficult window for me. We're middle of the season. This year we launched at a signature event. The next week was a major, and the week after was a signature event. That's a difficult time frame.
It's not a lot of money on
Is
the
that
line.
when tour
right
players
there.
go, hey, I'm really looking to make a switch right now? Yeah.
And so when you look at, Memorial with 73 of the best players in the world, you're at a situation where it's pretty challenging. But I think the one thing tour players realize is, one, they're involved. Every time they come to TPI, Stephanie and her team and Tom Bennett, they're coming out with prototypes and they're involved in hitting it. So they've seen iterations and they've seen the changes. So they know what's coming. We're not surprising them and saying, hey, this you never heard of. We're going to just take the lid off it. So to a certain extent, like Wyndham, they're asking for it. And why would you leave ball speed on the table? Is if I give you a driver that says, this is as straight as what I've had, it is the look I love, and I'm giving you 2 or 3 miles an hour of ball speed, they understand with statistics now, I can't leave that on the table.
Right.
So this is going to go into play. So just seeing the adoption rate the first 3 weeks has been, almost double what we would normally expect in a normal adoption.
Because you mentioned the statistics, right? With all the data that players have now, does that make it easier for the switch to happen that much faster than it used to?
It's both ways. So let's say you're not driving it well. Hey, statistics say I need help, a little less left miss, or I'm losing some distance, or my launch to spins are off a little bit. But the same thing is if you put a driver in and it's not performing, it's going to go out right away. And so we judge ourselves a lot on not how many go in right away, how many ever come out.
How many stay in?
And so that's what we've been seeing is the staying power. Is not only is this going in, but it's performing on the golf course and staying in the bag, where you get that Sunday text and you're like, oh, I didn't check scores yet. And it's asking for the backup driver because I'm going over the open. It's not, say, I need to try something different.
Yeah. Talk to me about fairway woods real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, JJ kind of kicked us off a little bit, but Tom Bennett, who's on the Metalwoods team, has worked very diligently to take the feedback from tour, to take kind of that and translate it into what are the engineering parameters that are going to help us to make these fairway woods perform better. And so GT fairways now employ the same PMP crown that we utilize in the driver. So exceptional sound and feel. But the benefit of using this type of construction on a fairway wood is even more impactful in terms of what you can do with manipulating CG, because fairway woods are stainless steel constructions. You're replacing essentially 5-to-1 from a mass perspective. And so GT fairway woods are our lowest center of gravities that we've ever achieved in an all steel construction. And we've also paired it with a new face design that we call an L cup. And the beauty of this L cup, and one of the things that we were seeking to do with it, was to bring more consistent ball speed performance on low face impacts. And this is able to be constructed out of a high strength 465 stainless steel, and it allows us to make this leading edge thinner. Essentially, it gives us more compliance, more ball speed. So whether you're hitting it from the tee or hitting it from the turf, you're going to see consistent ball speeds and launch and spin. And in doing that, pushing that CG down, pairing it with exceptionally fast speeds, you end up with this higher trajectory. And ultimately, that was our goal. We wanted to make fairway woods that got up in the air easier. And did you all see that and experience it? And
Yeah.
you're
Can I
hitting with
hold?
it? Of course.
Yeah, a couple of things I thought that were interesting. And one, like you said, is, you think about on driver construction, if you're taking a composite and you're using PMP in this case, yep. But you're replacing titanium, which is about 3 times heavier than the composite that's being used to replace it. With stainless steel, which, like I said, a lot of fairway wood constructions there are some that are titanium, no doubt, but if you're replacing a steel crown, that's like 5x.
Yes.
So you're saving a tremendous amount of weight. Why not go to the composite sooner?
I think really what drove it was that players weren't asking for specific performance changes out of that necessitated this design change. And so we take a lot of feedback from tour, and in terms of one of the points of feedback, JJ had never come back to us and said, I'd like to see a fairway wood, a 13.5 fairway wood that can launch to the moon.
Right.
And so
Right.
once we had kind of that open door of this is where we would like to go from a performance perspective, we really opened that up from a design threshold, and it allowed us to look at the construction in a new way and be able to allocate the mass in a new way as well.
And then, like I said, the L cup, I think I know why it's called L. Don't
Yeah, I think it checks out.
I thought it was going to be 7, maybe. Like, that'd be a new name. Like I don't know. Anyway, so that kind of...
Yeah, I think that's it's as the game changes a little bit. You know, we've always had players asking for that 35 to 3,700 spin off the turf, and I'm shaping shots and I'm hitting it in. And as golf course design has changed a little bit, there's a little bit more like we saw with you guys is, hey, I kind of want my 3-wood to chase a little bit. And then when we lower spin, the flight gets too low. And what we've kind of found is there's not too many people who go, my fairway launches too high. Plenty of people that say my 3-wood spins too much.
Sure.
But you never hear it launches too high. And so we're trying to take that old school flight and modernize it into that up early, flat late.
Yep.
So that was kind of our ask is, hey, can we get some launch without spin? And if anything, push spin down.
Yep.
And that's kind of that more strong 3-wood trajectory that we're seeing more players either off the tee saying, hey, I want something less than driver, or off the ground, just let me chase it up there.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to that.
Well, yeah, because
But you took out my baby from the lineup, so the 13.5.
JJ didn't do anything.
No, this is Stephanie.
Stephanie
and Tom.
didn't do that to you.
Maybe not to me personally, but it is gone. It is missing the TSR, or what would be a GT3 13.5. So you kind of reorganized the lineup a little bit. So what was the decision there, and kind of that
simplified
stronger
the lineup? You know, when we look at marketplace trends, we look at tour trends, and trying to determine what are the right loft offerings to bring to market. And we weren't seeing a lot of usage of 13.5s on tour any longer. We weren't seeing a lot of usage of 13.5s in the marketplace either. We had generated with TSR2 in the TSR lineup, the TSR2 Plus, and it was kind of that T type replacement, but also really playable off the fairway. And that design had really gained incredible traction with JJ and the tour. And so as we started to think about, well, what's the right model to have in a 13.5 chassis? What's going to unlock the most performance for the majority of players? It really centered in on that design. How do we bring something that has a little larger footprint size, allows the ball to get up in the air, but also allows you to have great versatility and performance from tee and turf.
Right. And the one you didn't make, right? We've got on the USGA list a couple months back. It was called the TSR, listed as a mini driver, or like that's the context that we discussed in. You guys are saying 2-wood, right? No firm plans yet, but what are you seeing? Again, we've seen 2 mini drivers on the market from competitors. Like, what are you seeing as far as trends and whether or not this is a direction that you maybe are going to go?
Yeah, it's actually a little bit where TSR2 Plus came as a tour prototype. There was kind of thoughts of not bringing that to market. You know, we had the 14.5 as a tour prototype that eventually came to market. So the 2-wood was we're exploring as golf course setups change, we're challenging that part of the bag. Less than driver, Stephanie, keep making this a driver that's really long, really straight. You know, but as we look at hybrids, utility irons, that between driver and your first iron, there's some challenges there, and we're finding some unique things in different players' bags. So we're finding some players that are looking for something a little bit larger footprint off the tee, or often challenged to hit less than driver. So we're kind of trying to find that best space for that player. We think we nailed it with GT2 in that 13.5 for the player that wants a 3-wood that they often hit off tee. We're wondering in this 2-wood space, is it the opposite of someone who hits less than driver off the tee almost all the time, but still doesn't want to be handcuffed and not be able to hit it off the ground?
No.
I think we've also seen just in the response of that a lot of times Tour in particular is using that as a course condition specific golf club.
One of the trunk clubs.
Yep.
And so, I think Cameron Young talked about it as, that option to be able to really carve it and hit it right to left. He loves with his driver to hit kind of the stock fade. And so with that 2-wood, he has the opportunity to kind of hit more of kind of a draw bias shot shape with it. And so having that capability and flexibility to pull it in and out, week in, week out, depending on what type of golf course he's playing, is something that he's considering. And he's such a long player already. He's predominantly using that golf club off the tee.
Sounds like an Augusta type play potentially for a right-handed player.
Yep, and they're just becoming more courses as they're moving, tightening fairways, firming things out. Max Homa's a perfect example. He is, I only like to cut it. I'll hit a straight ball or cut it, but he needed something that was easier to shape right to left. So we go a little smaller footprint. We had done some things in his 3-wood, but he felt like, hey, that's hanging back a little bit too far. How do we push that a little bit farther up? How do we get spins in the upper 2000s instead of the lower 3000s? So that's a course condition setup where Max Homa will put in. So we're still trying to learn about that product, and we're still trying to find who does that fit and how many is that.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a lot of information, people. It's a ton of stuff. Let's finish up with this. What's the last thing, or if, because again, there's consumers in the marketplace. There's a lot of choices. And, probably fair to say choices have never been better across the board. When we do our testing, we see this all the time, that the floor has continued to raise. And there's a lot of really good products out there. What's one or two things that you would want consumers to remember about GT?
I'd want them to know that it's exceptionally fast and exceptionally stable, and so they're going to see longer drives more often.
Yeah, and for me is that hidden technology. There's a lot there that we had to hide. The things that we have is let Steph and team take away. 16 hosel settings, CG adjustability, CG depth choices. So from a fitting standpoint is you're going to start with speed and then be able to really unlock direction during your fitting.
It is interesting, again, looking at the marketplace where, we talk about all the time, like the visual technology and how companies go out of their way to provide visual cues about what's going on in the hood. You guys seem to have gone the opposite way. You've gone to great lengths to hide everything, to keep everything streamlined and just as clean as it can possibly be.
I think it is one of our strategies in that we want a player to set a driver down and to have it look, sound, and feel like a Titleist. We want it to inspire confidence immediately. And one of those attributes is I don't want JJ coming back to me saying the one reason why Charlie Hoffman can't put this driver in play is because it doesn't look right to him. And so the more often we can deliver something that really looks like something they're comfortable with, that allows them to set up consistently behind the golf ball, that's something that I think we'll see more players find more success with more often.
Perfect. I love it. Any final thoughts, Tony?
No.
This has been fun. I want to go play the short course. I want to go hit some more balls. It's a beautiful place for a podcast, but really, it's a playground.
It's not terrible here.
As soon as Bennett's done fitting, we'll clear this out and we'll set up 9 holes for you.
I love that. Until next time, people, ask us questions. Find us, follow us. We're out there on the interwebs. You know how to get a hold of us.
Oh, real quick. When can people actually try this? How about that? That seems like an important detail.
Yeah, details.
August 1st is when fittings will start, and it'll be in the marketplace in August.
There you go.
There you have it, people. Until next time, we out.